So here's the thing, if you aren't a doctor or run a medical practice, this video probably isn't for you. However, if you are one of those two things, this video could be one of the most important things you've seen all year. The thing I'd like to talk about today is payroll tax and how it's going to affect medical clinics all across Australia. So let's start with what payroll tax is. Payroll tax is a tax levied by a state government on any amounts paid to employees by an employer. In New South Wales, employers have to pay 5.45% of any amount paid over $1.2 million. You're asking now, how does this affect the medical industry? Well, in a recent court ruling, they found that doctors who were paid amounts out of facility fee arrangements were actually employees of the clinic. Let me break this one down for you. So, in a standard facility fee arrangement, for those of us who don't know, a clinic has patients come into it, the patients see the doctor, and the clinic bills Medicare. Medicare brings the money in. The doctor typically takes between 60 to 75% of that, with the remainder going to the clinic as a facility fee. On the face of it, this is a business relationship. The doctor is in business, he's seeing patients, the clinic isn't providing a service to the patient, the clinic is providing a service to the doctor, and they're taking a cut out of the amount because they're doing the administration. However, the recent court ruling found that, one, the doctor had to give them notice of any annual leave coming up, the doctor had to act in the interest of the clinic, and the clinic could influence the doctor in certain ways that deemed it that he was an employee. Now, if he's an employee, any money paid by the clinic to the doctor is now wages. What that means is, on amounts that they weren't paying payroll tax on before, they now have to pay payroll tax. In fact, they may have to pay it retrospectively. Now, naturally, this means that it's a large expense for the employer that they didn't have before. But I don't think people have really noted what this could mean. What I mean by that is, if you are now liable to pay payroll tax on this person, you could be liable to pay superannuation. And superannuation at this point in time is 11%, much more than the 5.45% that they're currently deemed to be owing. So naturally, no one wants to pay this amount. The clinics don't want to pay this to the state governments, and the doctors don't want to take a pay cut so that the clinics can afford to pay it. So what do we do? The question that you need to ask yourself now is, what is the mechanism by which we are making these people employees? And the thing we need to look at is the actual agreement between the doctor and the clinic. A relevant contract is one where, after review, they find that the person who's getting paid money is an employee and not in a business relationship with the clinic. Now, it doesn't matter what you write in the contract. You could write in bright red letters above this that this doctor is not an employee. They don't actually look at that. They look at the salient features of the agreement. So how do we make a contract not a relevant contract? And when I say this, I'm not saying how do we take an employment agreement and make it look like it's not an employment agreement, because that would be tax evasion and that would be very wrong. What I'm trying to say is, if you are not in an employment relationship with someone, how do we make it abundantly clear that this is a business relationship and not an employment relationship? Now, looking through the legislation, I found a couple of interesting things. For example, there are certain exemptions that can be made. If, for example, the doctor works for less than 90 days in the clinic, he could possibly be exempted. If, for example, the doctor offers his services to the public in general, could be exempted. If the doctor employs an assistant that they pay directly, they could be exempted. However, the easiest thing I found is, if you have to make it explicit that this is not an employment relationship, stop having a facility fee arrangement and make it a tenancy fee arrangement. So what's the difference between a facility fee arrangement and a tenancy arrangement? Well, the New South Wales government has said explicitly on their website, you are allowed to charge rent to a doctor for using your premises. So you need to have an agreement that says the doctor is a tenant, the doctor has to pay you rent. There has to be various clauses in the contract that make it obvious that this is a tenancy agreement, and the money has to be collected by the doctor and he pays you rent. You're not collecting money and paying the doctor. What I would advise is, first of all, you get the contract drafted up properly, and then you need to make sure that there are activities in the actual practice between you and the doctor that make it abundantly obvious that this is a business relationship and not an employment relationship. For example, the doctor needs to be made aware that he needs to make arrangements for his staff. If the doctor needs to go on leave, they need to arrange care for their patients while they're out of the country. This stuff can't be done by you because, again, it could look like you're the employer and you're just shuffling your employees around. Now, I understand this is a very complex issue, and I usually get a lot of DMs about these videos anyway, so if anyone needs any questions answered, please feel free to reach out.